Hey guys, welcome to episode 54 of The Green Life. Today is with me, Chantal. So I'm going to talk about growth and healing not being linear. And this came to me because I was doing a bit of work on myself, as I always do. I'm in this process of growth. And I remember when I shared my story on the podcast, one of the things that I kind of analyzed was my journey and, going back into my family and why I was affected by how my mother was behaving around food and other things. And obviously the relationship of my parents not being very mature adults and being quite self-absorbed in their own trouble and wants and not really thinking about the needs and necessities of us children, because quite frankly, they were just too young to be parents. And I know anybody can be parent, but to be a proper parent, you have to really work on your shadow side. And that's my opinion. And of course, you can disagree. From my experience, I think to be a good parent, you would have had to really work on yourself. And I know a lot of people think, yeah, but we always grow and we always change, which is true. But you want to kind of have a place where you have some things figured out, right? Like where your ego is not running your life. And my parents were just not that. They were not there. So I thought, well, okay, that's just life. It's what happened to, in my case, it's what happened to our life and my sister and I especially. My brother also kind of faced that because my mother hasn't worked on a lot of the things that she should be working on. And I, really pray that she does because she, quite frankly, has a lot to give. I obviously talked about the negative things that affected me, but as a person, she does have a lot of good qualities that if she nurtured and healed, she would be amazing, and it comes through for her. For example, in her work, she's a painter and she makes amazing art, and you just don't fake that. And she always says the art is, her feelings. So I really hope she gets there. We're still not in touch. We're still not talking. And I think for the time being is the best thing for me to keep that distance and that boundary in place. But I do recognize the skills, I guess I see the opportunity that this person has to become an amazing human being. Like the potential is there, right? So when I looked into this and through my meditations, one of the things that came about is, how sometimes we feel like we need to be on this upward tangent in our healing and growth because, we want to ascend. But in truth, our healing and our growth are never really one direction and multifaceted because we are very complex humans and we are multifaceted. And I'm looking at the hair on my jersey. This is what happens when you have dogs. So if you're looking at watching this on YouTube, you'll see it too. I apologize. But anyway, I basically, I was just thinking there are so many levels that we heal from. And like one of the things that I talk about in my coaching about, for example, is, the different pillars. And one of the things that I obviously tackle first is food, because that's one thing. Eating is one thing we do every single day, several times a day. And so you want to get that right to a certain extent to then help the rest of your body heal, to take it to the next level, right? So your body can be cleaner, your mind can be clearer, but that alone is not going to change. It's not going to make healing possible in other levels if you're not also working on your emotions. And one of the things that I talked about in one of my videos on my social media channel, Instagram, is that one of the things that I had to face when I realized that I had to really do something about my eating disorders was that I had to deal with my feelings, right? Because I was eating my feelings away. I was eating the pain away, and I was relying on food to be my support system. But at the same time, I had such a bad relationship with it because I didn't like the way that it made me look, because I didn't eat with love. I ate with anxiety and stress. And through all this kind of process of understanding different sides of healing and the different aspects, and then obviously working on each of them, one of the things that I came across was, ancestral healing. Now, this is something very new for me, but it came up over and over last year. It was a 2022 buzzword. Everybody was talking about ancestral healing, ancestral healing. And I'm like, okay, something to look into. I don't know what that is. Never heard about it before, actually. But then I started doing my Akashic records, and I found out so much from the Akashic records that really prompted me to go kind of dive deeper in my own journey as a soul. So before this particular cycle on this planet, where was I? What was I doing? And I've always been a healer in most of my lives. But particularly one of them, I'm just, going back to this memory of being a shaman, which is interesting because my yoga teacher in London, the person I study yoga with, used to call me a shaman, but not because we ever talked about this. It was just something she called me. And, maybe she had this intuition. We never dove into why she did. She just said, you are. And I'm like, okay. And I kind of brushed it off because I didn't really remember. And you all know, if you've done Akashic records, that you get glimpses of past lives or your experiences. Like, we have these memories stored at cellular level. I really believe that. And so going into deep meditations and working through things, I just found out that was one of my lives. I also found out that I had the same parents twice, which is actually ironic because they don't like each other, so they ended up together again. But also they were obviously there to teach me a lesson. And one of the things that when I went to get confirmation for this from somebody that didn't know me. She does Akashic records too, and she was really amazing. She said, you had to have these parents because that you needed to become stronger. Because a lot of the time, she said, your body kind of got stronger over time, like you got a better body as you came back. Because I had a fragile body at some point. And I think really in this lifetime, I mean, I'm not free of diseases, if you like, but I am the strongest, I could possibly be, really. I'm quite strong physically and mentally as well. So she said, you work towards having a better body, stronger body, but you needed something for your mind. And these parents, you asked for them because they were the biggest challenge. So in a way, I guess I'm grateful because, they actually did give me the tools to be a stronger version of myself. And I think, sometimes there are many reasons why I could sit in a corner and feel really sorry for myself and be like, why didn't I have a normal childhood? Didn't I have parents who, were really caring and looked after me and made me feel like I had a childhood instead of like just catapulting me into adulthood, if you wish. And I cannot be mad at it now because I understand the purpose, and it's painful. The pain is still there, but this is the part of growth. Like you're trying now to heal. So part of the ancestral healing journey now, after doing the Akashic records, I went to see a therapist. She is absolutely amazing. She is Spanish, and she practices in my friend's school where I actually teach the kids about nutrition. It is like a Montessori style school, and I absolutely love it. And I actually interviewed the person that owns the school that started the project, Yvonne. She's in one of the earlier episodes. So if you want to check out this, the education part of O Mundo Somos, I really suggest it. It's a beautiful project, and there's stuff happening this year, next year. So I'm really excited about it. But one of the things that I explained to this woman everything, and she's also actually qualified as a psychologist. So she had a way of explaining things that were not just woo-woo, they were actually tangible, because I'm a very holistic healer and practitioner. I am, but I do like to kind of also have the substance from a more tangible place, which could be the science, right? And I think the two really come together. It's just that our system hasn't allowed that to happen, because our system doesn't recognize that our soul has a value and a part to play in our ascension. So as individuals, right, even in our health. So that gets lost in translation. And so one of the things that I really found with her after explaining everything is that she put things into perspective for me. She said, look at the way that your lineage is. You are kind of skipping over your mother because your grandmother had this mother figure. And I've said it many times, my grandmother was really the mother figure. But ancestrally and energetically, that's not the right alignment. And it does affect me right now. And if I had children, as well as it affects my sister, her lineage, because we have the same lineage, but at the same time affects my mom, because she also was taken out of her place in this lineage. And I kind of went deeper and deeper into this story and this alignment and this healing. And I must say, the first time she said to me, you need to start praying for the alignment to be corrected, and you have to start really processing this correction. And I guess I was a little bit resistant to it, because I'm like, yeah, yes, but realistically speaking, my grandmother did a lot of the raising, not my mom. She wasn't there. She wasn't available. She wasn't able. And how do you want me to do this? She said, forget about the practicality of what happened. Try to focus on the fact that energetically you have to tell your grandmother, I have a mom, right? I have a mother. You are my grandmother. I love you, but I have a mother and she needs to be in this lineage. And then try to really remember the things that my mom shared that were positive. And this is why when I started the podcast, at the beginning of this podcast, I mentioned, the skills that this woman does have, and that I really feel that if she healed herself through her trauma and really recognized that although there were many things that she was a victim of and things happened to her, and that is true, she's also the maker of her reality, because she's stuck in that victim mentality instead of actually taking responsibility and accountability for her actions so that she can grow and progress. And so this is something we all have to do. Whenever we are on a journey of self-discovery, of healing and growth, we have to tap into these things. And the first thing is to take accountability, which means we have to look in the mirror and actually be like, I really fucked up. Okay, now what? Now what am I going to do to make this right? And how can I not do this again? This is the hardest part, because we have to recognize that we failed at some point, but that the failure allows us to grow and improve and become better versions of ourselves. And so what are you going to do about it, right? Now, I'm not saying that just recognizing this is going to fix everything, because there is work to do and there is rewiring of your brain. You have to really create new pathways in your cognitive health, like in your brain. Literally, you have to build pathways that are different, that are separate from what you're used to, from your habits. And new habits take at least 21 days to form. And God knows we make bad habits quickly, and then good habits take a lot longer. But I feel like, this was actually a good exercise to do, because then I started valuing the things that my mother actually does well and did well, and her skills, and forgiving more and more. And again, as I said at the beginning, I don't have a relationship with her at this point. I don't know if we ever will. I really don't. I pray that, because if she heals and she comes into the acknowledgement that she made some very big boo-boos with us, and that she acknowledges that her behavior is hurtful still, and that she changes that, there is a big chance of having a relationship, because why wouldn't you want to have a relationship with your mom? But until then, we are going to be in a loop that I think is just not conducive to anybody's happiness. And especially I have to look after my happiness, in the sense that I have to make sure I don't just go back into triggers that kind of set me back, right? I don't want to get hurt again. I don't want to feel like I'm being blamed. I don't want to be the bad guy because I want to stand up for what's true. My God, I do that already in like real life with people that I don't even have a relationship with. Like it's tiring. But I feel that, that's okay. Like we might get there, we might not get there, but I'm still gonna acknowledge that there is some good in this person. And I am praying for her to have that awakening. So, God can do everything, anything and everything. Like our maker is amazing. And we are made in his image, which means we can be amazing, which is why, ascending is possible for every single human being, unless you're a demon, then I don't know. But if you are human and you have the spirit, that soul, I think it's possible to ascend because, well, we want to go back to Father. We want to go back home. This has nothing to do with religion. I always say, people always think, oh, religion is nothing to do with religion. In fact, if you put me next to a Christian who is a religious Christian that is talking about just the Bible, we're going to have a problem because I go way beyond just the Bible and I read the Bible. If you put me next to a Hindu, we're going to have a problem because I can break down some of the books that they have that, are not exactly true, but I can also draw the truth from them. There is so much stuff. Like this is not the episode for it, but there is so much research that one can do into theology and not what you study at university. Again, I really feel like if you want to learn anything, you go on a journey on your own, and you have to piece the puzzle together because everything has been broken in many, many pieces, so that it's confusing. It takes years to put it together. And I am not saying that I have it all figured out and I ended my search. I haven't. Every day I found something new. I just know that is this, right? There's this part of it. So when I speak about ascension, when I speak about being in God's image, when I speak about Yeshua, what they call Jesus, I am not talking religion at all. Like, just not that, because sadly, religions have been tampered and created by man. And even Yeshua, when he was here, he had a problem with the Pharisees because they were pushing their concepts and what was allowed or not versus actually what God ever shared with humans, which goes beyond just what is in books like the Bible. So that makes me happy in a way, because I always felt very drawn to wanting to look for truth and looking for this amazing, and I'm looking outside because I have this beautiful mountain. Nature always kind of gives me the inspiration when I talk to you guys. But basically having this guidance from the Most High and hoping that he just makes this miracle happen. And my mom just has this happen to her, this revelation and a change. And so it might happen. But in my meditations and in my healing, ancestral healing, I am creating that lineage again, and I'm putting it back in the place that she was supposed to be. Because whether or not my grandmother did it on purpose to be the mother figure, and I know my grandmother didn't necessarily wanted to be a mom for us because she was very busy. She was a business owner. She was working really hard. She was very successful. At the same time, she had a home to keep, and she was very much about cleaning and cooking and doing everything meticulously. I mean, I am definitely her granddaughter, but she assumed that role of mother, and she did it whether she realized it or not. And I think she did it because she knew she had to step into this. But at the same time, I then went into my mom and her mom's relationship when my mother was a child. My grandmother had immigrated to South Africa, and she was, an immigrant, and she had her own business, and she had to work really, really, really hard, learn the language, and change her life. And the truth is, she didn't have the time when she had my mom to really be home with my mom. And when my mom was very young, she was raised by our housekeeper. I know in South Africa we use the word maid, which is not great. I guess now is like, why would you use that word? But at the time, right? So our maid was looking after my mom. my mom went to boarding school and she didn't fit in because she was very sensitive. And so she needed her mom, and her mom wasn't available for her because she was working really hard to make sure that they could pay the house off. They could have, she could be looked after. She could be at school. And so there were a lot of things. And of course, I wasn't there. So I also don't know the details of everything. I don't know what my grandmother was feeling. But I know my grandmother had a lot of trauma. So I'm going to get into that now. So when my uncle came about a few years later, I think my grandmother had time to kind of settle her life. So maybe my grandmother just had my mom way too early for, to have it all figured out, in the sense that she wasn't really established yet to then have a child and be like, cool, I can be a mom and I can still have a business and I have it figured out. Like, she was figuring it out as my mom was very, very small. So when my uncle came about, I think she was in a better place for that. And I think she had more time to give to my uncle. And of course, my mother took it personally. She took it as if she had been rejected, and my uncle had the place right in my grandmother's heart. And of course, he was a boy, and Italians and the moms and the freaking boys. But anyway, that is that. I mean, my mother does it with my brother too, so the irony. But okay, so I think there was that too. That obviously my uncle John was a boy, and so my grandmother was much more attached to him. I honestly don't know the dynamics. I was not there. I wasn't even a thought at the time. But I think when I go back and reconstruct what I have heard and what I've seen and what I can imagine from experience, this is probably what affected my mom. So she felt that she didn't have a mom. But at the same time, then I learned later also, and again, I am putting the pieces together now through meditation, what my grandmother has told me, because she wasn't a very open person that would speak about her travel at all. She was very much like me. She wouldn't talk too much about herself. And I mean, I've done this exercise on this podcast with my story, but I also felt like there's so much more to share. But it's difficult when you are always caring for somebody else to actually talk about yourself, because you almost feel like you are taking time and space that you shouldn't be taking. So one of the things that my grandmother faced in her childhood is also abandonment and loss and missing her own mother. Her own mother died when she was very young. I'm not quite sure about the age of 7, 6, very young. And my granddad, who was very hardcore, I mean, the man had a nickname, Mussolini. So you can imagine the type. Although I met him, but he just was so old at the time that I didn't see the harsh part of him. I just thought this man that was, sure, he never smiled, but, he was old. And I met, and he remarried, and I actually met my step great grandmother. This is very complicated, but I met her because my grandmother used to go and see her sometimes. So when I visited them, when I was in Italy, I visited them with her. So there's that. So apparently, what the story that I heard from my grandmother is that she was working the fields when she was 9 years old. So there is obviously a lot of trauma, because at 9 years old, you're still a child, but you don't have a childhood. You're sent to work the fields. This is also during World War II. So of course, actually no, World War I, because she was a child then. Yeah, she was a young adult in the Second World War, but basically, she was a child and she was sent to work the field. Now, I know that her stepmother, so the woman I met, my step great grandmother, was not very nice to the children. I don't know to what extent. I don't know if there was beating. I wasn't told. I was a child when I met her, so she died probably when I was 7. So my grandmother would never share these details, never. But I can imagine. When you told there was violence, there was abuse, okay, whatever that means, it could be physical, mental. that she was missing a mom. You can see the lineage is broken, not just in my lifetime, not just in the ancestry. And I don't even know what my great grandmother, my actual great grandmother's life was, right? So we don't know. We don't know. But I can again imagine with my great granddad being called Mussolini, having a shitty character and being a really hardcore man, that maybe even my great grandmother did not have it easy. And so she might have been really long suffering too, because she didn't have the power. There was no empowerment of women. We're talking about a very, heavy society in Italy where people are kept under the thumb by a country that was, very elitist, and the people that didn't have money were just kept really at the bottom. And, you just don't know. There's so much. Abuse happens everywhere. It's not a new thing. We talk about it more, but it happened at the time. So again, my grandmother, a child working in the field, could something have happened to her, right? By an adult? Possibly. I mean, the woman ran away from her situation as soon as she could and married my granddad. So there is definitely a lot of stuff that wasn't talked about. And I don't know what that is. And I'm really keen to maybe speak to my grandmother's siblings to find more out about it and really get the history. I don't have a relationship with my extended family. We lost touch and I haven't seen them in maybe 25, 30 years, but I can still find them possibly. So there is a way for me to actually put the puzzle together a little bit more. And will I ever know the whole truth? Probably not, because it's very complex. But you can imagine in your own family, right? There are pieces that might be missing, but when you try and reconstruct them, there is this thing that makes sense. Now, I am trying to reconstruct it through meditation and through what I know. So again, I went down to the lineage of my grandmother and seeing that ancestrally everything is out of place. Now, I don't know further away from my great grandmother even what it was like. So I am just rebuilding what I know in my heart, and with the intentions and with the healing and the forgiveness. And I think that from what I understand and from what I'm learning from ancestral medicine and ancestral healing, things happen in the ether, because a cellular level, you have memories, but there is also this spiritual side that is connected to these people that I lived before, our ancestors. And so calling on to them and giving them the peace by putting the pieces together and creating peace into your lifetime, it's a very powerful tool. And that is another part of healing, right? That's why I said it's never linear, because everything is kind of everywhere. Like it's like I guess you could imagine a rainbow shape, and you have to like see all the colors, and every color is a different part of your life. Every color is a different aspect of your mental well-being and your physical well-being and your spiritual well-being. And even within these categories, you have so many more subs that you have to work on. So I thought, wow, nothing really is linear. Like thinking that we're always on this high, like straight arrow, it's very naive, right? And it actually puts a lot of pressure on a lot of people, because if you're not going always up, if you're not feeling like you're improving, you're raising, you're like you are going to the next level, you feel like you're failing. But maybe you are on the next level and you now have to go across because there are other aspects that you have to take care of, and then you're ready for the next level. So for me, that was really a big wake-up call, and I think it really did something, because there's a lot of stuff that is happening in my body. I'm starting to have pain in very specific places as I heal this. And at the same time, because I'm having pain and I'm seeing my osteopath and I'm doing meditations and I'm doing massages and I'm doing my yoga, and I am doing my blanket. I love my Koana blanket. Infrared sauna blankets are the best investment you can ever make. So I'm going to put them in the show notes, because I think if you can get yourself one, please do. A normal sauna is a big investment, but this was actually affordable and a great one for yourself. So that was a big present that I gave myself. Not sponsored, I'm just saying. And then I feel like these pains are coming up because I'm also releasing. So as I do all the practices to help me release and the pain goes away, there is something that feels different. And so even the fact that I can right now speak about my birth mother in a certain way, like with this kindness and acknowledgement of her gifts and positive side, it's a massive improvement. When I recorded my story, I was still in that, I guess, in that pain, and I felt like, I felt like I would never even. I was very angry. I was angry because of her behavior last year, and it's still a reprehensible behavior, but I have chosen to just choose this compassion and really feel that she just did what she knew how to do, which is very low energy and low vibration, because that's where she's stuck. And I can't expect and have, I can't have the expectation of somebody that is stuck in that vibration to be behaving at a higher frequency. So that, I think, made a huge difference. And for once now, I can actually appreciate that. So you can see how healing works. It allows you to actually even speak differently about people that maybe have hurt you. Of course, when it's family members, a lot closer to the heart than if it's some random person or for even friends. But even with friends, like, and I'm saying this with the most factual approach. So I'm not being emotional about it because I processed it. But when I lived in London, for example, I really thought that I had good friends, that I had a tribe. I was managing the yoga at the studio, and I always strived to be as kind as I could, even if I didn't necessarily feel that people were really truthful sometimes. But I always give the benefit of the doubt. And I mean, I met amazing people too. I met amazing colleagues as well. But one of the things that I obviously was doing as managing the program of the yoga program is that I also had to be the buffer between management and the teachers, because the owner of the studio is this really talented, very talented woman, very talented and very creative and very intelligent. But of course, she's not free of trauma, and that trauma really came through the way she dealt with us. And one of the things she did not do is trust anybody. So she wouldn't allow the creative juice to flow. And it came through because whenever we had an idea or I wanted to do something, she didn't allow it to be birthed and tried. She would say yes and then stop it in its tracks. And a lot of teachers just got tired of it. And of course, people don't necessarily know the ins and out of a business if they're not in the business, like really talking to me. So there's a lot of stuff that teachers didn't know because they were not privy to it and they were not involved. But so I had to be that buffer. And sometimes I'm sure that because I had to relay what I was told, and I didn't really have a choice whether something would happen or not most of the time, which is what made me really frustrated. I might have looked like I didn't want somebody to have a class or do something, and that wasn't the case. And I was even told to let go of a teacher while she was on a honeymoon, which I didn't want to do, but I was told to do it, and there was no way there was nothing I could do about it. And of course I got slack for it, but it wasn't because I was trying to be horrible. Honestly, it was orders, and sometimes I pushed it as far as I could, but I just couldn't. And so when I left, a lot of the people that, however, got a lot out of me, they didn't even care to be in touch or to be supportive. And I really struggled when I moved here. The change was intense. And also I had been through lots of trauma, extra trauma, dealing with a very macho society. with men that just don't respect women in a society, in an environment where, I mean, they don't even respect each other. Now I know better, but you come from abroad and you think, well, I'm sure like the world is all modern. It's not. And as a woman, you just feel like, what's going on here? And I felt like I was abandoned. And a lot of these people are still not my friends, and they're not my friends anymore. Add to that what happened in 2020 to now, where oh, she's a conspiracy theorist, doesn't believe in the, what? I was called an anti-vaxxer when, I mean, I have all my vaccines actually, except for this new one. I never really not trusted. I mean, I'm like, are they necessary? I think not all of them are necessary. I got all the diseases I got vaccinated for as a child. So I'm like, okay. But I also, now that I'm studying, or I've been studying healing, real healing, like naturopathic medicine, homeopathy, nutrition for years, I kind of like, there is more than just taking a shot for something. So I'm not anti anything, but I do question. And when this thing came out, I questioned, and I was like, please don't rush to take anything, especially if you just want to do it for traveling, because mark my words, you're not going to need it. Lo and behold. But they're never going to come back to me and say, I'm so sorry, I thought you were crazy, but actually you were not that crazy. No, they just don't talk to you anymore. That wasn't even it. Like, there was just the cherry on top of the cake. These relationships broke way before, but I did feel betrayal, and so there was pain, and that had to be healed, because I thought, I've given so much, I really did, but people just used me. That's how I felt. And then I actually realized that, a lot of the people that I had in my community are troubled. They really are. Like, they were trying to figure out their own life. And living as a teacher in London was hard, because you have to just bounce from one studio to another, up and down, back and forth, trying to make a name for yourself in a very overcrowded environment. I mean, there's more yoga teachers than anything. And thankfully now they're like, okay, we can all, maybe we should have a job and do this as a part-time thing. A lot of them have to. We are very underpaid. The yoga community is severely underpaid, and and we shouldn't, but we are. So there's a lot of stuff that I had to kind of come to conclusion, like to terms with. And I think that's, again, also part of healing, like trying to understand that, okay, people didn't behave the way that I wish they behaved. And I'm sure I haven't behaved many times in the way that I wished I'd behaved. So, can't point really fingers at anybody, especially when you're not in a good place. You're not going to be able to be your best self. And they behaved that way because they were struggling. Even people that try to have it figured out. I'm going to just say this. Like, I was friends with Delicious Liella, and I'm on her on her app, and I was one of the first teachers on the app because she just started it in 2018. Now it's grown massively. But she was going through changes too, and yoga was part of her healing journey. And we're not in touch anymore. I don't know what happened, but we're not in touch anymore. I mean, she's busy. But I also felt like, why? Like, we were friends. Why are you not talking to me? I haven't actually had a problem with her. But you never know what happens in people's lives. And I thought, okay, fine. There is that disappointment, but you have to kind of let it go and then understand what other people are coming from. Where are they in their life at the moment? And maybe at some point you rekindle, maybe you don't. And maybe you're just not meant to be. And we are living in very selfish times. People are selfish, self-centered, scared. They are attached to things, and they are not able to always let go. And this is one of the things that makes us really perform in a very low vibration, when we are stuck to the things of the material world. So there is a saying that I really like, which is, we have to be in the world, but not of the world. And this is so true. And if we don't get that right, then we're not going to ascend, right? We're talking about healing and growth and ascension. And one of the things that we need to learn to do is to let go. And this is something that I'm being challenged with every day as well. Like, for example, there are things that I do that are so well curated, and they come from the heart, and I don't see them go anywhere, right? I don't see them go anywhere. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, why is this not going anywhere? and I still have to practice that detachment from that. I have to practice that sense of letting go from what my ego thinks I should be doing and I should achieve. And you're 42 this year. Like, why don't you have like a business that brings you six figures? Like, and the truth is also that I'm not very money focused, and I should be a little bit better at valuing myself. But at the same time, I also do everything with the heart, and I always do everything mostly for other beings. And at the moment, because of where I've been called, one of the biggest projects of my life is being really looking after nature and the animals. So I am rescuing dogs, and mostly dogs. Cat food come, I'm sure. Mostly dogs, and we're thinking about other animals, rescuing them, rehabilitating them if they need it, finding homes for them. Sometimes they stay with us. We have now 6 that are with us, but we found almost 20. Two of them, I found their owners because they were not abandoned but lost, thankfully. Although, again, no chip and no collar, and trying to educate people. And then others were abandoned. And some we managed to find homes for, some we didn't. Some were responsible adults and humans, and some were not. There is a lot of stuff to consider when you do this, but that's what brought me so much joy. And everything that I make goes towards those kind of projects. So, of course, I guess we all have to have like a little journey, but then I have to kind of let go of the fact that don't have this like business that is bringing £100,000 a year plus, and that's okay. That's okay. Because one of the things that I do when I do have like even my inner circle or my coaching, I do group coaching now because it's more scalable for me to being able to share information with more people rather than have a one-to-one, because I can only see so many people. And the thing is that there is work that you have to do after the sessions. And so if you're doing work for a group, is much more rewarding because then you get this information to as many people as you can. Really, this is what I want. Also, because I feel like I actually want to educate people to take responsibility for their health rather than being always trying to have that one-to-one. I mean, of course, I'm able to, and I'm available for my clients to come and ask questions and support if they need it. But I moved away from that one-to-one model because it's exhausting, the work that goes into it. And sometimes people are just not ready to go to the next step. And then if they are stuck in that place, they might even not want to work anymore and not heal and grow. So part of the healing journey is to take accountability, as I said at the beginning, and wanting to do that. So, I always do it for as cheaply as I can, for example, not because I don't value my work. My work is very much worth a lot more than I put out for, but I also understand people need help and sometimes they can't afford it. Now, of course, I get upset when people say they can't afford something and then they will splurge into things that are really not necessary for their growth, or on silly things like materialistic stuff. But everybody's on their journey and I have to learn to let go. So this is an exercise that I've been doing for many years now. Let go. Don't practice attachment to anything, not people, not situations, no things, nothing, because that keeps you stuck. So I'm going to go into diets from this now, because one of the things that we're talking about when we talk about being stuck is that density, right? So when you are at low level, you're denser, so you're heavier. So for people that, for example, are very vata, so very airy and very out there, they easily meditate and get lost in the ether. Those are the people that need a bit of grounding to exist into this reality and being able to hold a job, for example. You will hear them, and even in Ayurveda is shared that they need things that are grounding, even the food, right? For people that are like me, perhaps, I'm a Kapha Pitta, so Pitta Kapha. I'm more fiery probably, but those attributes are great for performing in this reality. But I need extra help to go a little bit more outside my body and experience the spiritual side. which I'm very much aware of and attuned to and called by, but I have to work towards it. And food has been one of the tools that I've really learned how amazing it can be. So one of the things that I've done in my healing journey and progression journey is this. You all know I'm plant-based since 2013, 10 years, and I absolutely love it. But one of the things that has changed for me since 2021, when I started my healing journey the second time from type 2 diabetes, is that I have found that raw food have been working for me so much more. Now, I'm not fully raw. I would love to try it fully this summer. Actually, last summer I was pretty much fully raw, but there are some things I don't become dogmatic about it, but I would love to actually do a fully raw for many things, including health. Maybe those blockages that I have in my body that have been coming up through the ancestral healing, they can also be unlocked and unblocked by this, for sure. But one of the things that I've been feeling really, really deeply inside my heart is that I need more raw food. And the raw food actually allowed me to meditate in a way that I've never been able before. So I had tried to go into the Akashic records before, but I wasn't able. And I know some friends talked to me about it, and I had friends that could read it. But again, I have a problem just trusting blindly, which is why when I went to see the lady here, I already had gone into my Akashic records and got some messages. She was just confirming. That's it. So I knew when she was saying, I mean, she'd said a lot of stuff that was completely off. And I was like, no, what you're saying is not true. But a lot of stuff she did say, and she doesn't know me. Okay. So I wanted that confirmation. They were very specific. It wasn't random general stuff that one can guess. So I thought, okay. So she did real deal. Just she got some stuff completely off, and this was mostly the first time. But I went again because I thought, no, I want to see. She didn't know I did the Akashic records, so I just asked her specific questions, and I actually sent her the question before, and I said, "This is the questions I have. I want to come and see you tomorrow. Can you just guide me through this?" So anyway, one of the things that I found that raw food allows me to meditate so much better. Not only that, but also I've been having much more vivid dreams. And I've also been using crystals, like I've been sleeping with crystals next to my bed or under my pillow. Wild. Wild. And so amazing wild. But wow, it's like, what is going on? So much stuff comes up when you have these powerful energy channels next to you. We have a Tibetan bowls we're using as well here. I had my friend Marie, who's actually going to be at the retreat. She is a sound healer, yoga teacher. She was here and she actually taught me a couple of tricks. I bought the bowls because I've been called to learn, and I love them. And I'm learning about how to use them as medicine as well. So sometimes my husband and I do some healing sounds, and then we meditate and pray. We pray to the Most High, and then we have the beautiful stones that are related to either our angels or the time of the month or the day. I mean, there's so many things that we can look at, but we have those, and there are stones that are actually related to us according to our date of birth. So amazing stuff. And the stuff that came through when I eat a raw food diet, it's amazing. I mean, raw food has been like a progression. You know, I cut out all things that are processed, prepackaged. I eat grains, but I eat like the most whole grains you can find. So I would make buckwheat groats if I have anything cooked. And I make like I actually shared this on Instagram, and I'll make a video about it. My waffles and pancakes, like if I want to cook breakfast, but I also want to keep it as wholesome as possible. So those are the things I would have. I don't have many grains. I found personally, I found that for me, the grains are not working. Maybe because my hormones are changing. And so I thrive on vegetables and fruit. And my body naturally is going towards more of that, more vegetables and fruit and more raw. And I am loving it. And I have seen this massive difference. So even in our growth, when we grow, you see, even our food, like my food personally changed as I was progressing and healing other aspects of my life. So nothing is linear. Healing and growth are not linear, but it makes a lot of sense because we are so multifaceted. And if you look at the tree of life, you have the central line, which always reminds me of London tube station, the tube line. So you have the central line from Malkut, so the earth, the ground level, if you want, and then Keter. So that's the crown. That's where the Most High is found. That's where you find Father. That's where you find your source. But even on the tree of life, you have sides. You have things around. So there are other lines that connect, and those lines have characteristics and properties that you have to tap into in order to then connect again into center and ascend. So what I was saying at the beginning, like you might get to the next level, but then you're not ascending upwards, you're going across because there are other things you have to fix right and left and in between, and then you can go to the next level. So even the ancients knew this. And the example, as I'm sharing this, I promise you, I haven't thought about this before. Of course, I thought about it, I guess, while I was doing it, but I didn't formulate it in my head to share it with you. I'm actually just sharing because it's coming to me. So I'm downloading all this, and I'm just putting it out there because it's starting to make sense as I speak about it, as I process it, as I'm able to, there's so much hair on these things. I am able to understand it myself, and it's beautiful. It's such an adventure, and in a way, it makes me happy that it's not just a straight line up and it's easy to ascend, because otherwise we wouldn't do any work. And of course, I understand, and it saddens me that a lot of the world population is not working at that level. It's not working at that frequency. It's not raising. Is stuck, whether they because of the food they eat. And I really do believe this. And you might disagree, and I don't blame you for it, because I'm not proving anything. I'm just saying what I feel and what I'm downloading from a spiritual level. Even the fact of having blood from another being in our body through the meat and the flesh, whatever we eat, is not allowing us to ascend. It's keeping us stuck, which is why the system loves it and makes sure that we are told that we have to have animal products to thrive. Because how do you control people if they are ascending, if they're elevating, if they're looking at things from a higher perspective where they can see a bigger picture? You can't control them. You can't control them with the thing that they've been giving everyone. You can't control them with fear. You can't control them with taking things away from them because they don't really want to, they're not attached, right? The practice of non-attachment is very powerful, because you know that even if that thing goes away, that materialistic thing goes away, you don't go away. You have the person you work to become is still there through the good and the bad times, through the hard times. And the hard times that we understand in this space and this dimension, they don't necessarily even have to be bad times. Like, one of the things that I've appreciated about some of the things that have happened throughout the last 3 years, and they have done before, they've been happening before, just people were not as aware about it, is communities being formed and growing. Now, are they problem-free and perfect? Absolutely not. You get nutcases everywhere, and you get people with agendas everywhere. Sadly, human condition. But you can also find and get lucky to find amazing people that really want to contribute all together towards the next step of even this human experience, right? So coming together and bringing different assets and skills together to create something. So more of them have happened. So a lot of people that felt like they lost what they had in sense of like materialism, they disconnected from that and moved on to the next stage where they're maybe growing and joining other people and finding themselves to be, well, so much more free. They're freer. And that's powerful, because that's not it's unprecedented to the scale we've seen it in the past few years. And it's a beautiful thing, because it really just is a testament that we are growing. Some of us are growing. A lot of us are not growing. And if those people are still stuck in a certain way, they're not going to get to the next level. And it doesn't matter if they are holistic practitioners or yoga teachers. The healing has to happen across. So I know a lot of yoga teachers who still eat animal products, and they are where they are, and they're not ready to go to the next stage because they are stuck there. There are a lot of people that I know, there are naturopaths, homeopaths, who are eating in a certain way, behaving in a certain way, stuck at that level, not able to ascend to the next level. But they do talk about healing a lot, but it's just not ascending because they're not ready to go there. That's okay. I think we all on our own journeys, and nobody is going to ever be perfect, maybe on this particular experience, on the cycle, but we are trying to ascend because we don't know how many cycles we have left, really. I mean, I personally think last one, but I also believe that it doesn't matter. The point is that some people are working at it, some people are not. But when you do work at it and you ascend and you detach, then you have some things that fall away even from your diet. So animal products is one of them. Like you don't want to eat them anymore. For me, was the experience 10 years ago at Thanksgiving when I had turkey after 3 months of not having any meat and animal products, and tasting the flesh and actually realizing that was flesh. I never in my life made that connection before. How silly is that, right? Like, what do you think the meat comes from? I never thought about it. Just like I never thought about cows having babies in order to make milk, which then we steal from them. I thought cows make milk. That's what they do. Why? I don't know. Why do we need it? And I don't know. I never questioned it. But even now, if I was severely lactose intolerant, I mean, I remember I knew I couldn't have dairy. I just knew it. I was sick all the time when I did, and I was addicted to this particular brand. So there was this little shop of frozen yogurt in Stellenbosch in South Africa, in Cape Town, in the Western Cape. It's not really Cape Town, but in the winelands of the Western Cape. So Stellenbosch, it's famous for its university. So it had this beautiful frozen yogurt place called Marcel. And I could not eat the freaking thing without exploding. Okay, so I know TMI, but I couldn't stop eating it. So not only was I having it often, I used to buy the 1 liter or half a liter buckets. Okay, so and then have it like in a couple of days. So I was having so much dairy, and I was all bloated because I was intolerant to it, and then of course the high fat content of dairy. But I was just so addicted to it, and I just could not stop eating it. I promise you, if you came and talked to me at that time about going vegan, I would have shot you in your foot, because I'm like, are you nuts? This is like my lifeline. Okay, do not touch this. I talk about addiction, food addiction, like big time. But even 11 years ago, if somebody said to me, try going vegetarian or vegan for the animals, I would have been like, get off my face. Like, what do you want? I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not killing them. I would have been that person. So I empathize with the resistance, and I empathize with being stuck in a place because I was there. But the magic that happens when you are detaching, even from the way that you were raised with this diet, and then you try something new and you feel this opening, this amazing opening of your pineal gland, and you can see things better, and your eyes are brighter, and your skin is brighter, and you're not farting like the cows in the field. Wow, something happens. Amazing and powerful. So I always say, if you want to heal, you have to try and let go of what you used to, even if it's uncomfortable. And I really felt that. I also feel that this is now my next stage. I was never comfortable with the idea of going raw. I thought that's so extreme. But now I am so ready to embrace this, so ready to take in this thought that, well, raw food actually, not only does it work for me now that my digestive system is healed. By the way, there's a part of that, right? You can't just go from eating an omnivorous diet, Western diet, full of processed food, very low fiber, to then going into raw. I mean, you're gonna land having troubles big time. Like you're gonna start having IBS and God knows what. But I've worked on healing my gut for 10 years. I had IBS, severe IBS, which really, really went so much better it went away when I became plant-based. Even before I gave myself type 2 diabetes, when I was really off the wagon, still vegan, but mostly processed vegan food, I started having digestive issues again. So the correlation is so high. And I was reacting even to like sourdough bread, right? So it's not that the healthiest food cannot hurt you, right? So, but for me, because my body was so inflamed, like anything would have triggered, and that did that too. So there are many things to consider here that we have never thought about before. We never perhaps embraced before because we were so attached. So again, the non-attachment comes even in diet, right? But the healing happens. And then as you heal, you are more able and open to embrace new things. And for me right now is this raw food lifestyle, which is allowing me then to ascend a lot more into my meditation. I was someone that could never meditate, forget about it. Now, I will share a secret. I am not somebody that can like stop in the middle of traffic and meditate. I have a time when I can meditate, which for the past week, I haven't been able to do because I've been getting up really late because I haven't been able to sleep well for many reasons. I mean, the full moon kicked my ass this month. But basically, if I don't get up at least 6 o'clock in the morning and I practice my yoga and do my meditation early when it's still kind of light, like dark, going into light, like just before sunrise. And so dusk is when I perform the best in my meditation, and everything is quiet and you can hear the world is still sleeping. That's when I will meditate and be able to go deep into the meditation and not be distracted, not even by my thoughts. Even my thoughts of what I need to do will not. If I get up late, which I have been doing this week, and I get up late and then I do still practice yoga. That's the first thing I do. I move my body. That's a non-negotiable. I want to do meditation. I cannot, for the life of me, focus. I can't focus. And if I try and do it at night, I'll fall asleep. So I have to do it in the morning. But you can see, even somebody that practices something, you have to find what works for you. For me, I know what works, but that discipline is necessary. People are like, you can just practice anytime, just have 5 minutes. And there are some people that can, and if you have that capacity, you are amazing. I am not one of those people. I have to do it in a specific time because that's when I can really go deep into my meditation and then fly. Because I am not Vata naturally. I am more when I have raw food. I am more by practicing intermittent fasting, which means I wake up in the morning and I already haven't eaten for 12 hours. And so I don't have any food in my system. And then I can do it. So all these things for me are very important. And you can see that even in that, right, all these practices that I put into place are healing practices, right? The intermittent fasting, very, very good for insulin sensitivity to create that. Is very good for sleeping better, which of course has been disrupted by light, by whatever. But naturally, that if you don't go to bed with a full stomach. Practicing yoga every day, moving the body with yoga. And I don't just do like flows. I actually do even yoga workouts with weights. I mean, I do many, many things to keep myself healthy and fit. And I feel that all these things, like meditation is very important. I have to be disciplined. So all these things that we do, we have to find what works for us. But you can see we change and we evolve and we find what works and we go for it. And the commitment to ourselves needs to be really, really present. So this is going to take me into my last bit before I sign off. But once you are into your healing journey, one of the things that is very powerful is to find a community of like-minded people that can come together and support each other. This is actually one of the reasons why I personally created my inner circle. And it's just for women at this point. And I apologize to the boys that maybe want to look for camaraderie, but it's not because I don't want to help men, but I feel at this point in my life, I'm called towards a more feminine energy, because I have, in my journey, when I was healing from eating disorders and trying to figure out so many things, I didn't have a platform where I could go to where I felt safe. I kind of resorted to have a psychologist for a very short time, and it wasn't successful. She was very textbook. She wasn't delving into a more multifaceted healing, and it didn't work for me. So it set me back in a way, because I was just still left with having to sort out everything on my own. And it took me years to find the tools and put them together, which is why I'm really committed to sharing them with people. So obviously one of the things I told you at the beginning, I'm all about animals and nature, but the other part is I still want to really help women heal. And this year is very, very, very powerful for women. We are back to understanding the matriarch energy that we need on the planet, because actually we're living in a patriarchal society that is hidden and messed up things, and that's very out of balance masculine energy. But the balanced feminine energy is that truth and healing and discovering and ascension and teaching and evolving, and it's all the stuff that comes with that energy. And one of the beautiful things is that we need to find the matriarchs again, which is these old souls that have been here many times before, perhaps, who have lessons that they've learned, that they are remembering who they are and are able to share. I'm not saying a man cannot do that. There are men that can, because even men can have that matriarch energy, okay, if you're in a good place. That feminine energy is the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit brings that wisdom, period, point blank. Any church can come and argue with me about that, if you want to say that the Holy Spirit is a male. You're stuck in the Middle Ages and your lies, and that out of balance masculine energy, it needs to go. This is time that it's going. This is the year. This is the time. And as you evolve, I really want to create this circle for women that have been feeling like I had been feeling for a long time, out of balance, out of a bad relationship with food, with their body. And there are reasons why, right? So we talk about this in the group, to bring it together, to create the support and to give you the tools so that then you see what a powerful woman you are, right? And so this is the point. Like, this is the whole thing about bringing together the knowledge, bringing it forth, sharing, and creating this shift in the paradigm. I personally wish I had a magic wand and I could go out there and change so many of the out of balance masculinity that has been destroying the planet. It's very, very difficult. It's impossible to do. I don't have a wand. Impossible as in to do it all at once. But the more and more of you ladies wake up and you have that support system around you, the more you can achieve. Now, if you're a man, find a group of people that can support you. And if you need me to create that group, I'm happy to reach out and we can do it. But this particular inner circle is just for women for that reason. I know that there are many women that are struggling as I did, and I want to offer them that relief and that support and that chance to thrive as I did or as I'm doing now. And I am convinced 100% that I will talk about something else next time, and there will be stuff that I've learned and grown into and ascended into, and because we never stop. And that's the beauty of it, in my opinion. I am someone that will never stop learning, will never stop studying. My husband keeps on saying, if you don't stop, all you do is study, which is probably why I don't make as much money as I should have as a business, because all I do is spend it into my studies. But I love learning. I love learning because it allows me to grow as a person. And I don't know, there is something, my brain works that way. When I'm stimulated in learning more and more, I can go places. Otherwise, I can become stuck, and I don't want to do that. So I have to find the balance between studying and actually working and making an income. But everything has been a beautiful journey, even in the shittiest of times. So I really hope that you find some inspiration in this. If anything, I really would recommend, I'm going to put it in the show notes. This book is called Ancestral Medicine, which I'm really finding super helpful. I would suggest you get a copy and allow yourself to go through it and then see how it can help you. If you can, in your meditations, on your prayers, try to see if there's any blockages in your lineage that you can clear up. Forgiveness and compassion seem to be not the magic formulas, but definitely some very key ingredients. Maybe on their own, they won't work, but with all the work that you can do around it, they're very powerful ingredients. And again, it doesn't mean that if you forgive and you have compassion for someone that you have to be friends with them. You're just in a place where instead of making yourself a victim and blaming them, so scapegoating, you are forgiving and you're allowing that person to feel this energy of compassion. And hopefully that energy will go through the shield that they have around them from the fear that they have. So, everybody protects themselves when they're in fear, and helps them heal and create their own journey of healing. And if they ascend, then they maybe can impact other people. This is why we talk about ripple effects. Our journeys, our steps, and our growth and our healing create positive ripple effects. If we are stuck in a negative place, all that comes out of us is a negative outcome. So, I feel like sometimes a lot of people have read books like, what is that? The Secrets and things like Visualize and Make It Happen. I don't necessarily agree per se with all of that. I don't feel like, there is a lot of egocentric even in this new age stuff. Because again, it's been taken from ancestral wisdom and then spinned around with a marketing campaign to make it appealing to our ego. That's where the problems start and where everything goes wrong. But if you go into actually the understanding of what these practices come from, this wisdom comes from, who taught it to begin with, even Yeshua used to teach some of all of the concepts that now are in brackets New Age. You can see why, if you're not coming from a place of ego and you're ascending towards Keter, you're connecting to the source through the Holy Spirit, you are able to share the right vibration to people. It doesn't mean you don't go through a shitty time, but it means that you work through it faster. And then again, you have compassion even for the people that hurt you. One of my biggest forgiving, I guess, exercises in last year, even just as recently as last year, maybe 2021, was my builder, because again, it was that out of balance, masculine, evil, really evil, mean, egocentric. And I see these attributes in people that I meet now too. And I kind of step back because I see it and I don't like it. But I had to practice forgiveness because if he messed up big time, because of him, we're still fixing things that could create even massive problems for our property. So I'm angry when this happens because I'm like, what the hell? But Chantal now versus Chantal 2018 and 2019 is able to step back and say, exhale, it happened, send compassion because that person is stuck in a very bad place. And you have to just ascend this and fix the problem with a solution, not get stuck in complaining and hating. And that shifts everything. So I really hope that if anything out of this podcast today that you take home with you is this practical exercise. Practice kindness, compassion, and forgiveness, not for others, not because of others, it's not for them per se, it's for you, but the way that it affects them is powerful. And I really hope that somehow you feel great. And again, if you want to join the inner circle, you can just reach out to me on my website. I put everything in the show notes. Feel free. If you're a man and you want me to create one for men, happy to do that. Or even better, I will refer you to someone that is a man, perhaps, because I also feel like you need to find the vibe that works for you. If I'm not that vibe, I don't know. I mostly work with women, so I don't know, but I'm happy to share with somebody that I think is wise, kind, appropriate for it, because I also think men who are growing and ascending need that support. And I don't talk about the woo-woo stuff. Like, again, a lot of people that are doing a lot of work, sadly, are still stuck in that ego, and that ego is a very masculine energy that is out of whack. And we have to ascend that. We have to ascend our ego. Our ego thrives in things that we know, where it feels comfortable, in attachment. So detaching shakes it. And so especially men, this is why men are much harder on themselves than women sometimes about how they want to change, or they can change, because they feel like fishes out of water if they have to detach from something that the ego is particularly attached to. There's an identity crisis. So yeah, guys, have a great day, and thank you for staying on for this podcast episode. I hope I didn't blabber. I was just sharing and making connections, and so I can go on tangents, but I love you, and I really appreciate all of you listening to my episodes, and I'm very proud of this project. I'm very proud of the podcast. I'm very proud of the amazing people that had us speaking, and it makes me happy when I can actually also come on here and share my own journey and story. So that doesn't happen often. I really want to have something on Bali to share when I do, and I hope you appreciate it. But I'll see you on the next one. Bye.